Chapter 1. The forest outside the Blackstone Pack Hall was silent in that unnatural way. Like even the wind was holding its breath. Inside, everything was noise. Drums. Horns. The low murmur of hundreds of wolves gathered for the most important union in a decade. An alliance marriage. A binding of blood, power, and fate. And I stood at the edge of it all, watching my sister prepare to become Alpha's bride, or at least, she was supposed to. My fingers tightened around the edge of my dress as I stared at her reflection in the mirror. Beautiful. Radiant. Perfect in a way I had never been allowed to be. Leora. The golden daughter. The chosen one. The one everyone wanted. And me? I was just the spare shadow standing behind her light. You can't be serious, I whispered when she turned away from the mirror. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I'm serious, Astra, she said softly. I'm not doing it. The words didn't make sense at first. I blinked. Once, twice. What do you mean you're not doing it? Leora, this is an Alpha alliance. This is pack law. Father agreed, everyone agreed. Her hands trembled as she reached for the veil. I didn't agree, she said. I never wanted him. A cold weight dropped into my stomach. Outside, the crowd roared again, cheers rising like thunder. The ceremony was about to begin, and my sister was backing out. You can't just refuse, I said sharply. Stepping closer, do you understand what this means? If you walk away, the alliance collapses. Father will be humiliated. The pack will survive, she cut in. But her voice cracked. It always does. That wasn't true. We both knew it. This wasn't just a wedding. It was survival. Without this union, our pack would lose protection, territory, resources, respect, and worse, we would become vulnerable. Leora looked at me then. Really looked at me. And I saw it. The decision forming behind her eyes like a blade sliding into place. No. I said immediately. Don't you dare. Her gaze softened. I can't do it, Astra. You have to. I won't. Silence. Heavy, suffocating. Then she stepped forward and placed the veil into my hands. That was when I understood. No, I said again. Firmer this time, stepping back. No. I'm not doing this. But the door behind us opened. And my father walked in, Alpha Rowan Blackstone. Even without shifting, his presence filled the room like a storm cloud. His eyes went from Leora to me. And I knew before he even spoke. This is not optional, he said quietly. My throat tightened. Father, the pack is watching, he continued. Voice controlled, dangerous in its calm. The Alpha is waiting. If this alliance fails, we lose everything. His gaze hardened slightly. And you will save it. My heart pounded. You're asking me to impersonate her. I am asking you to protect your bloodline, he corrected. Leora stepped behind him instantly. As if she had already escaped the situation. Emotionally, my stomach twisted. Of course, she was already gone. I was still here, holding the weight of it. You'll only need to stand there, my father said. This stays down until the binding is complete. No one will know, not until it's too late to matter. Too late, whirred my head. I looked at the veil in my hands. White silk. Soft. Innocent. Outside, the horns sounded again. The final call. My chest tightened painfully. If I do this, I said slowly. I'm not your daughter anymore. I'm not her replacement. I'm just a mask. My father didn't hesitate. You are a leader of this pack. That is all that matters. Leora didn't look at me. She didn't apologize. She didn't stop me. She simply stepped aside, leaving me in her place. My fingers curled around the veil, and something inside me broke quietly. The ceremony hall was blinding. Moonlight poured through the open roof, silvering everything it touched. Hundreds of wolves stood in silence now, watching, waiting. And at the end of the aisle stood him, Alpha Kale Draven. The man who ruled the Blackstone territories like a shadow with teeth, cold, untouchable, feared even among alphas. His eyes were already on me. Or rather, on her. On the woman they believed I was. I forced my breathing to steady as I stepped forward, unknown step. Then another. The veil hid my face, but it couldn't hide the way my heartbeat betrayed me. Thump, 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 louder than the drums. I felt it the moment I reached him. Something shifted in the air, like recognition. Without memory. His gaze sharpened slightly. Stillness flickered across his expression. Something is wrong, he murmured. Not to the crowd. Not to the priests. To himself. My fingers tightened. Don't look too long. Don't notice. Don't proceed, the elder commanded. The binding ritual began. Words of union. Words of power. Words that tied two souls under the moon's law. But all I could feel was him. His presence pressed against me like gravity. When he stepped closer to place the oath ring, his hand brushed mine. A spark shot through me so violently, I almost flinched. His eyes narrowed instantly. Silence stretched. Too long, too aware. What is your name? He asked suddenly. The hall went still. That question was not part of the ritual. My throat went dry. Behind the veil, I forced the name out. Leora. The lie landed between us like a stone. But instead of relaxing, his expression darkened, like he didn't believe it. Like something inside him was already rejecting the answer. The wind outside shifted violently. Moonlight flickered. And for a brief second I swear his wolf surfaced in his eyes. Possessive. Alert, dangerously awake. That is not your voice, he said quietly. The words struck harder than I expected. My breath caught. The elder cleared his throat sharply. Alpha Kale, we proceed. But he didn't move. He didn't look away. He was staring directly at me now. Through the veil. Like he could see something no one else could. Something buried. Something forgotten. My heart slammed against my ribs. And in that moment, I realized the worst part wasn't that I was lying. It was that somewhere deep inside him, he already knew. The bond had started to wake. And I had just walked straight into the cage of the man I once loved. Chapter 2. I never forgot the way he looked at me the first time. Not Delpha, who stood at Thodar, not the cold ruler of Blackstone Pack. But the boy who used to look at me like I was something worth keeping. Like I was not a mistake. It began before crowns, before politics, before blood, and serried alliances. Before I learned that love in a pack like ours was just another form of war. The yacht was anchored far from the shore that night. The sea was quiet, silvered by moonlight, as if the world itself had agreed to keep our secret. Kyle leaned against the railing, his dark hair damp from the ocean spray. Eyes reflecting the stars like fractured glass. You shouldn't be here. Astra, he said. But he didn't move away. That was always his contradiction. He pushed me away with words, and pulled me in with silence. I brought something for you, I said softly. From behind my back I revealed it. A wolf claw pendant, carved from obsidian stone. Polished until it caught light like liquid shadow. I had spent weeks on it. Every cut. Every polish. Every line me-teamed for him. His gaze dropped to it. For a moment. Something softened in his expression. What is it? He asked. A promise, I said. His jaw tightened slightly. Promises are dangerous things. I stepped closer anyway. So is fate, I replied. The wind shifted. The ocean pressed gently against the hull below us. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then I placed the pendant into his hand. His fingers closed around it slowly, carefully. Like it mattered. And that was my mistake, because that night, I thought it did. Everything changed after that. Or maybe it didn't change at all. Maybe I was just the only one who believed it meant something. The day he rejected it is still burned into me. The pack hall, the gathering, the eyes watching. I stood in front of him. Heart in my throat, the same pendant now in a velvet box. I made this for you, I said. Silence. Then laughter, low, sharp, humiliating, not from him. From the crowd. Kyle didn't take it. Didn't even look surprised. He just stared at me. Like I was something he had already decided to discard. I don't accept this, he said. Simple. Clean, final. My breath caught Kali. Kale, I don't accept you, he corrected. The world tilted. I remember the sound of my own heartbeat drowning everything else. Then came the worst part. Leora stepped forward, my sister. Perfect, radiant. smiling like she had won something she never competed for, and he looked at her differently. Not like he looked at me. Not even close. That was when I understood. I was never part of the choice. I was just the mistake before it. The humiliation came later. Public. Deliberate. Unforgettable. He stood before the pack elders and named Leora as the chosen one. Not me. Never me. And I stood there while my name disappeared from my own life. Like I had never existed correctly in the first place. The final crack came the night I left. The yacht again. Only this time, there was no moonlight softness. Only storm clouds, only silence. I found him alone. And I asked him the question I should never have asked. Did anything between us mean something to you? He didn't even hesitate. No. One word. And everything inside me shattered. That was the night I stopped being Astra in his world, and became nothing at all. I left before sunrise. No goodbye. No explanations. So heavy it followed me for years. Now. I stood in front of a mirror, in a city far from Blackstone territory. Not a girl anymore. Not a broken daughter either. A woman. A woolery designer. Successful enough that no one asked where I came from. Strong enough that no one saw the cracks beneath my hands. Except I did. Every night. When the world went quiet. And 2 small breaths filled my home. My twins. Small, bright alive. And dangerously like him, white traced their sleeping faces gently. My heart nighting in ways I never spoke. Allude. You'll never know him, I whispered. Not because I couldn't spefias kuntivi alev. A sharp knock broke the silence. I froze. Only one person would knock like that. I opened the door slowly. My father stood there. Older, heavier, worried in a way I had learned to distrust. Astra, he said. It's time. My stomach dropped. Time for what? His expression darkened. The pack is collapsing. A pause. Then the words that changed everything. And the alpha who saved it insists on seeing you again. My blood went cold. No, I said instantly. But my father's voice cut through mine. A silence stretched between us. Heavy, impossible. And he said the name I had buried for years. Kale Draven is back. And suddenly, the past I ran from wasn't behind me anymore. It was waiting at my door. Chapter 3. I learned early that pain doesn't disappear. It only changes shape. Sometimes it becomes silence. Sometimes it becomes ambition. And sometimes it becomes survival dressed up as success. The city never asked where I came from. That was its greatest kindness. Or its cruelest lie. Because here, no one cared about broken girls with forgotten names. Only results. Only what you could create from nothing. So I created. The glass doors of my studio slid open with a soft hiss, revealing rows of velvet trays lined with gold, silver, and obsidian designs. My Dazazaidas. My name Astralux engraved in discreet lettering along the walls. To the world, I was a jewelry designer, an artist, a rising force in luxury fashion. To me, it was armor. Every piece I created was a way to turn pain into something sharp and beautiful. Something I could control, unlike everything else in my life. Boss, the investor meeting is confirmed for tomorrow, my assistant said from behind me. I didn't cancel it. She hesitated. But this is the 3rd time this week. I said cancel it. Wait-o sen. Tao esto. Silence. Then a quiet yes ma'am. Good. I didn't need more money. I needed distance from people who looked at me too closely. Because if they looked too long, they started asking questions I couldn't answer. About my past, about my children, about their father. The twins were my only world that wasn't built on survival. Luca, Nora. Stop running. A small crash echoed from the living room. Then laughter. Pure. Bright. Unaware of the weight they carried just by existing. I stepped into the room and froze. Luca was standing on the couch, like he was conquering a kingdom. Nora was holding a pillow like a shield. Both of them had his eyes. Not metaphorically, not emotionally. Physically. The same storm gray gaze that once looked at me like I was replaceable. My chest tightened every day I told myself it didn't matter. Every day I failed a little more. Come down, I said softly. They obeyed instantly, running into me like I was the safest place in the world. And I hated that I was lying to them. Because I was safe. Just not honest. Later that night, after they fell asleep, I stood in front of their bedroom door longer than I should have. 2 small breaths, 2 lives. I built alone. 2 secrets that could destroy everything if spoken aloud. I pressed my forehead against the frame. You'll never need him. I whispered again. But the words didn't feel like strength anymore. They felt like fear. The knock came the next morning. Harder, this time. More urgent. I already knew who it was before I opened the door. My father. His face looked older than I remembered. Strained. Tight, like a man holding a collapsing wall together with bare hands. They've agreed to terms, he said immediately. My stomach tightened. Who has? He didn't answer at first. That silence told me everything. No. I said instantly. No. Whatever this is, no. Astra, he warned. I said no. He stepped inside anyway. And the moment he spoke again, the air changed. He's coming back. My breath caught. Don't. I whispered. But my father continued anyway. The Alpha who saved this pack's future is the same man funding its rebirth. My hands went cold. No, I said again, weaker now. But the truth was already forming in the space between us. He asked for you, my father added quietly. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the edge of the table. Why? My father looked at me then, really looked at me. And I saw it. Fear, not for me. For him, I don't know, he admitted. But he didn't ask for the pack. A pause. Then the words that made my blood run cold. He asked for you, Astra. Silence swallowed the room. I could hear my own heartbeat. Too loud, too fast, too familiar. I spurred again, but it was breaking apart now. I won't go back. My father exhaled slowly. You don't have a choice. That was when I knew. The past wasn't knocking anymore. It had already walked inside. And it knew exactly where to find me. That evening, I sat in my studio long after everyone left. The lights dimmed. The city outside blurred into golden shadow. My hands hovered over a sketch I couldn't finish. A pendant. Obsidian. Sharp edges. Familiar design. My breath caught before I even realized why. The wolf claw. A memory I had buried so deep, it shouldn't still exist. But it did. Because some things don't die. They wait. A vibration snapped me out of it. My phone lit up. Unknown number. 1 message, no greeting. No explanation. Just 3 words. I'm coming home. Yan. My heart stopped. Then shattered all over again. Because I didn't need a name to know who it was from. Kale Draven. And whatever I built to survive him was about to fail. Chapter 4. The first time I saw him again, I didn't believe it was real. Not because I forgot his face, but because some people don't belong in your present once you've buried them in your past. Kyle Draven was one of those people. The Blackstone Pack territory had changed. That was the first thing I noticed as the car crossed the border. The roads were smoother. The gates stronger. The guards sharper. Everything, everything. Like a kingdom preparing for war. Or something worse. My fingers around my handbag as the driver slowed near the mains. We've arrived, he said. I didn't move immediately. Because my body already knew. Something here was waiting for me. Something I had once belonged to. And escaped. The doors opened before I could reach for the handle. Of course they did. Protocol. Or control. I stepped out slowly, heels pressing into stone that felt too familiar. The air hit me instantly cold, dense, alive wolf territory. Every instinct I had buried for years stirred at once. Then I saw him. At the top of the steps. Standing like he had always owned the place. Alpha Kyle Draven. Except he wasn't the boy from my memories anymore. He was sharper now. Colder, built from power and silence and things that did not break easily. His eyes locked onto me instantly. And didn't move away. For a second. Neither of us spoke. The world didn't either. Then he began to walk down the steps slow, controlled like he had all the time in the world, and I had nowhere to run. "You came," he said when he stopped in front of me. "Not a question. A statement. My statement. I was told I had no choice." A flicker passed through his eyes. "Something wettable. Interesting," he murmured. "That hasn't changed." My pulse jumped. He remembered that version of me. The one who used to argue. The one who used to care. I straightened my shoulders. "Why am I here, Alpha Draven?" At the title, something in his expression shifted slightly. Not anger. Recognition. Like the word didn't belong between us. "You don't call me that," he said quietly. My breath caught. Memories flashed too fast. Too sharp. I forced them down. "That was a long time ago," I replied. His gaze darkened a fraction. "Time doesn't erase what it doesn't understand," he said. Silence stretched between us. Too heavy, too aware. Then he stepped aside. "Come inside." Not an invitation, a command dressed as one. The council hall was the same place where my life had once been rewritten, but now it looked different. Stronger, colder, more dangerous. Kale sat at the head of the table as if he had never left it. As if he had always been waiting for me to return. I stood across from him. Not sitting. Not yielding. A small act of defiance. I wasn't sure I still had in me. "You wanted to see me," I said. "Yes." No hesitation. The elders around the table shifted slightly, watching, listening, waiting. Kyle leaned forward just a little. His eyes never left mine. "I'm rebuilding the alliance structure," he said. "I don't care," I replied immediately. A low murmur passed through the room. His gaze sharpened. But instead of reacting, he studied me, like I was a problem he hadn't solved yet. Or worse, a memory he couldn't delete. "You should," he said finally. I gave a short, humorless laugh. "I don't work for PAX anymore." "You always did," he replied. That landed harder than I wanted it to. I held his stare. "Then you don't need me here." A pause then. "I didn't say I needed you," he said. Silence snapped tight. But his eyes betrayed him. Because he didn't look away. Not once. After the meeting, I tried to leave quickly. Too quickly. But fate or something crueler was faster, Astra. My name, not title. Not formality. Just my name. I froze. Slowly turned. He was closer now. I hadn't noticed him moving. That was never a good sign. "You're still wearing that face," he said quietly. My brows furrowed. "What are you talking about?" His gaze dropped briefly to my expression. Like he was searching for something underneath it. Something only he remembered. "You used to look at me like I mattered," he said. My chest tightened painfully. "That was before I learned the truth," I replied. A flicker of something dark crossed his face. "What truth?" he asked. I should have stayed silent. I should have walked away instead. I said it. "You chose her." The air changed instantly. Not louder. Not colder. Heavier. Kyle didn't deny it. Didn't even flinch. And that was worse. Because it meant he remembered exactly what I meant. "I didn't choose wrong," he said slowly. My heart dropped. Then he added, "I was made to believe she was the only option." My breath caught. That wasn't what I expected. At all. But before I could respond, a voice echoed down the hall. "Alpha Kale, the children are ready for." I turned instinctively. Two small figures appeared at the far end of the corridor. Running, laughing, alive, and then they saw him. Everything stopped. Even Kale, his gaze locked onto them instantly. Something in his expression shifted slowly. Dangerously. Like recognition without explanation. My blood turned cold. No, no, no. Luca and Nora slowed as they approached. And for the first time, looked at him the way some look at something they don't understand. But instinctively recognize. Kale's voice dropped. "Barely. Mel. What are their names?" My throat went dry. And in that moment, I knew. It was standing in the open. Looking right at him. Chapter 5. For a moment no one moved, not me. Not Kale. Not even the twins. The corridor felt too small for what was happening inside it. Like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Luca tilted his head slightly. studying the man standing at the far end of the hall. Nora hid half behind my leg, but her eyes stayed fixed on him, curious, unafraid. Chapter 6. The truth shatters everything the moment Nora asked that question. The world didn't just pause. It fractured. Like glass cracking under pressure that had been building for years. Mommy, who is he? Her voice was small. Curious. Completely unaware she had just pulled a trigger none of us could stop. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't even look at Kale. Because I already knew what I would see in his eyes. And I wasn't ready for it. Not yet. Kyle didn't move. Not at first. But I felt the shift anyway. That silent recalibration inside him. Like something long buried had just been dragged into the light. His gaze stayed locked on the twins, unblinking, unrelenting. Then slowly, it moved to me, and stayed there. Longer than I could survive. You didn't answer her, he said quietly. My throat tightened. It's not your concern. A faint, humorless breath left him. It became my concern the moment I started counting years, he replied. My fingers curled at my sides. Stop talking like that, I whispered. Like what? Like you know something. That finally made him step forward. Not fouten corset esken. Now tesken. Not aggressive. Controlled. But every step felt like pressure closing in on me. On my life, on my truth. The twins shifted behind me again. Luca peeked out from my side. Nora stayed closer. Kale saw both of them clearly now. Fully, undeniably. And something in his expression finally cracked just slightly. Not emotion. Recognition trying to become certainty. 5 years, he said again. Almost to himself. Exactly 5. My pulse spiked. No, I said quickly. Stop. You left 5 years ago, he continued, ignoring me now. No warning, no trace. Nothing. His eyes sharpened. And you returned. With them. Silence hit like a wave. I felt it in my chest. Heavy, final. My voice shook despite my effort to control it. They are not your business. That was the wrong thing to say. Because Kyle stopped completely. And when he spoke again, his voice was lower, colder, dangerous in a way I had only heard once before. When a child carries my blood, he said quietly, everything becomes my business. My heart dropped. The air went still. Even the twins felt it. Luca stepping slightly closer to me. Nora gripping my hand tighter. No, 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 no. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. Not yet, not ever. Kyle's gaze flicked to Luca first, then Nora slow. Measuring. And then, he spoke the words that broke everything I had built to survive. They are mine. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was certainty. My breath left me all at once. No. I whispered instantly. No, you don't get to say that. His eyes snapped back to me. Then deny it, he said. Silence. Because I couldn't. Not anymore. Not when every piece of truth was standing right in front of him. Not when time, memory, and fate had already done the math for him. Luca frowned slightly. Mom, he said softly. He said soft. That small voice shattered what little control I had left. Kyle's expression changed instantly at the word. Mom. Not guessed. Not assumed. Said. Acknowledged real. His jaw tightened sharply. Astra. He said my name slowly. Like it hurt to say it correctly now. I flinched. He stepped closer again. This time I didn't stop him. Because I couldn't. You left, he said quietly. You disappeared. My voice broke. You didn't look for me. A flicker. Sharp, instant. I did, he said. That stopped me completely. I did, he repeated firmer. For months, for years, my breath caught. But I shook my head. No, I whispered. You didn't. Kale's gaze darkened. I stopped when I was told you were gone because you chose to be, he said. Silence. What I wasn't told, he continued slowly, eyes shifting back to the twins, is that you left carrying something of mine. My stomach twisted. Nora tugged my hand again. Mommy, why is he looking at us like that? I couldn't answer. Because Kale was looking at them like a man staring at missing pieces of himself. Like something that had been taken, or hidden, or stolen. His voice dropped again, barely audible. How old were you when you left? He asked me. I hesitated. Too long again. And that hesitation answered for me. Kyle went still, completely still. Then very quietly, you were already pregnant. The words didn't feel real. They felt like impact. Like a door locking shut forever. My vision blurred slightly. No. I whispered again. But it had no strength left in it. Kyle stepped closer. And this time, I didn't move back, because there was nowhere left to go. His voice softened, but not kindly. Something worse. Understanding. You ran, he said, and you never told me. My throat tightened painfully. You rejected me first, I said. Broken now. You chose my sister. You humiliated me. I didn't know. He cut in sharply. Snapped between us. He looked at me then. Really looked. And for the first time, I saw something in him crack. Not anger, not dominance. Regret. The realization settled between us like a collapsing sky. And Kale Draven Alpha of Blackstone Pax slowly turned his gaze back to the twins. His voice dropped. Almost fragile. Tell me, he said quietly. What are their names again? I swallowed hard, because I knew. If I answered now, nothing in my life would survive after. Too familiar, my heart pounded so loudly I was sure Kale could hear it. Come here, I said quickly, my voice tighter than I intended. They didn't move. That was new. They always listened to me. Always. But now something else was pulling them. Something I had spent years trying to erase from their world. Kyle took one step forward. Only one. And I felt it like a shock through the air. Stay back, I said sharply. Instinctively placing myself between them. His gaze lifted to mine, slow. Controlled. Dangerous in a way that wasn't loud. But certain. I didn't move toward them, he said quietly. A pause. Then, they moved toward me. My breath caught. Because he was right. Luca had already taken a half step forward before I even realized it. Like something inside him, recognized the call before his mind could stop it. I forced myself to stay calm. Alpha Draven, I said, deliberately formal. This is inappropriate. Hand. His eyes flicked to me at the title again. A small tension tightened in his jaw. You keep using that name like it belongs between us, he said. It does now. Silence. Heavy, uncomfortable. Then he looked past me again. At them. What are their names? He repeated. My fingers curled slightly at my sides. I hesitated. Too long. That hesitation betrayed me. Luca and Nora, I said finally. Something shifted in his expression. Not confusion. Not surprise. Recognition. But not from memory. From instinct. His wolf. The corridor suddenly felt colder. Kale took another step forward. But slower this time. Measured, careful. Like he was approaching something fragile. Something that could break him if he wasn't careful. My pulse spiked. You shouldn't be here, I said quickly, turning slightly to block his view again. They are children, he replied. They are mine. I snapped instantly. The words came out sharper than I intended. Too fast. Too defensive. Too revealing. A silence dropped between us. Even the air seemed to tighten. Kyle's gaze lifted slowly to mine, and stayed there, for a long time. Then are they? He asked quietly. My breath caught. Because it wasn't an accusation, it was a question he already suspected the answer to. I didn't respond. I couldn't, not without everything collapsing. So I did the only thing I could do. I reached for the twins. Come on, I said softly. We're leaving. Nora hesitated. Luca didn't, but before they could take another step, Kale spoke again. Wait. One word, not loud, but enough. Enough to freeze the air again. I closed my eyes briefly, then turned back. What? His gaze shifted from me to them, then back again. Something darker settled in his eyes. Something controlled, but not calm. I need to confirm something, he said. My stomach dropped. No, I said immediately. That earned a reaction. A faint narrowing of his eyes. You don't get to decide what I confirm, he replied. A pause, then, quieter. Not if what I suspect is true. My throat tightened. Because I knew what he suspected. And I knew what confirmation would destroy. The twins shifted behind me. Luca tugged slightly on my sleeve. "Mom," he whispered. That single word changed everything. Kyle heard it. I saw it in his face. The way his expression didn't break, but deepened. Like something inside him had just locked into place, slowly, dangerously. Undeniably. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Kyle took one step closer, then stopped, right where he could see them clearly. His voice dropped, barely above a whisper. "How old are they?" I froze. Because that question was not random. It was calculation. Time memory. Pieces aligning. I swallowed hard. 5. I said. Silence. Absolute silence. Then something in his expression changed, not outwardly. Not dramatically. But enough. Enough to make my blood run cold. His jaw tightened slightly. His eyes darkened in a way that wasn't anger. It was realization trying to become truth. He looked at them again. Longer this time. Like he was seeing a future he had already lived through, but forgotten. Then his gaze returned to me. And this time, there was no distance in it. Only certainty forming. "You were gone 5 years," he said quietly. My chest tightened. He stepped closer. I counted. My breath stopped. Because that wasn't something an alpha should know. That wasn't something a stranger remembers. That was obsession. Or grief. Or both. Behind me, Nora spoke again. Softly, curiously. "Mommy. Who is he?" The question shattered something in the air. Kyle's eyes flicked to her instantly, then back to me, waiting for my answer. And I realized with sudden clarity, there was no way out of this moment anymore. Not without truth. Not without destruction. Not without him knowing everything. Chapter 6. The moment Nora asked that question, the world didn't just pause. It fractured, like glass cracking under pressure that had been building for years. "Mommy, who is he?" Her voice was small, curious, completely unaware she had just pulled a trigger. None of us could stop. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't even look at Kyle. Because I already knew what I would see in his eyes. And I wasn't ready for it. Not yet. Kyle didn't move. Not at first. But I felt the shift anyway. That silent recalibration inside him. Like something long buried had just been dragged into the light. His gaze stayed locked on the twins, unblinking. Unrelenting. Then slowly, it moved to me. And stayed there. Longer than I could survive. "You didn't answer her," he said quietly. "It's not your concern." A faint, humorless breath left him. "It became my concern the moment I started counting years," he replied. My fingers ulled at my sides. "Stop talking like that," I whispered. "Like what?" "Like you know something." That finally made him step forward. Not fast. Fast. Not aggressive. Controlled. But every step felt like pressure closing in on me. On my life. On my truth. The twins shifted behind me again. Luca peeked out from my side. Nora stayed closer. Kale saw both of them clearly now. Fully. Undeniably. And something in his expression finally cracked. Just slightly. Not emotion. Recognition trying to become certainty. 5 years, he said again. Almost to himself. Exactly. 5 pulse spiked. "No," I said quickly. "Stop. You left 5 years ago," he continued, ignoring me now. No warning, no trace, nothing. His eyes opened. With them. With them. Silence hit like a wave. I felt it in my chest. Heavy. Vice forks despite my effort to control it. "They are not your business." That was the wrong thing to say. Because Kyle stopped completely. And when he spoke again, his voice was lower, colder, dangerous in a way I had only heard once before. "When a child carries my blood," he said quietly, "everything becomes my business." My heart dropped. The air went still. Even the twins felt it. Luca stepping slightly closer to me. Nora gripping my hand tighter. No. No, no, no. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. Not yet. Not ever. Kyle's gaze flicked to Luca first, Then Nora. Slow. Measuring. And then he spoke the words that broke everything I had built to survive. They are mine. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was certainty. My breath left me all at once. No, I whispered instantly. No, you don't get to say that. His eyes snapped back to me. Then deny it, he said. Silence. Because I couldn't. Not anymore. Not when every piece of truth was standing right in front of him. Not when time, memory and fate had already done the math for him. Luca frowned slightly. Mom, he said softly. That small voice shattered what little control I had left. Kyle's expression changed instantly at the word. Mom. Not guessed. Not assumed. Said. Acknowledged real. His jaw tightened sharply. Astra. He said my name slowly, like it hurt to say it correctly now. I flinched. He stepped closer again. This time I didn't stop him. Because I couldn't. You left, he said quietly. You disappeared. My voice broke. You didn't look for me. A flicker, sharp instant. I did, he said. That stopped me. Completely. I did, he repeated, firmer. For months, for years my breath caught. But I shook my head. No. I whispered. You didn't. Kale's gaze darkened. I stopped when I was told you were gone because you chose to be. He said. Silence. Then, what I wasn't told. He continued slowly, eyes shifting back to the twins. Is that you left carrying something of mine? My stomach twisted. Nora tugged my hand again. Mommy. Why is he looking at us like that? I couldn't answer. Because Kyle was looking at them like a man staring at missing pieces of himself. Like something that had been taken. Or hidden. Or stolen. His voice dropped again, barely audible. How old were you when you left? He asked me. I hesitated. Too long again. And that hesitation answered for me. Kyle went still. Completely still. Then very quietly. You were already pregnant. The words didn't feel real. They felt like impact. Like a door locking shut forever. My vision blurred slightly. No, I whispered again, but it had no strength left in it. Kale stepped closer. And this time, I didn't move back, because there was nowhere left to go. His voice softened but not kindly. Something worse. Understanding. You ran, he said. And you never told me. Painfully. You rejected me first. I said. Broken now, you chose my sister. You humiliated me. I didn't know. He cut in sharply. Silence snapped between us. He looked at me then. Really looked. And for the first time, I saw something in him crack. Not anger. Not dominance, regret. The realization settled between us like a collapsing sky, and Kale Draven Alpha of Blackstone Pack slowly turned his gaze back to the twins. His voice dropped. Almost fragile. Tell me, he said quietly. What are their names again? I swallowed hard, because I knew. If I answered now, nothing in my life would survive after. Chapter 7. The silence after his question was unbearable. Not empty. Not calm. But full, like the entire world was holding its breath. Waiting for me to decide what kind of ending this story would have. Tell me. Kale said again. Quieter this time. Their names. Luca and Nora stood beside me. Small. Warm. Unaware they were standing at the center of something that could break two worlds apart. My hands trembled slightly. I had survived years without him. I had survived childbirth alone. I had survived raising them alone. But this moment was harder than all of it combined, because truth was no longer hidden. It was standing in front of me, looking at me with his eyes. Luca, I said softly. Then I hesitated. My throat tightened. Nora. The names fell into the air like final judgment. Kyle didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe for a second too long. Then something in his expression shifted. Slowly, like a wall collapsing brick by brick. He looked at them again. Not as strangers. Not as children. But as something he had lost without knowing he had it. His voice came out lower than before. Luca, Nora. He repeated the names like he was testing them against a memory that didn't exist yet. Then he whispered, My children. The words hit the air like a wound opening. My chest tightened instantly. No, I said quickly. Stepping forward, don't do that. His eyes snapped to mine, and for the first time since I returned, I saw him not as alpha, not as ruler, but as a man who had just realized something he could never undo. You don't get to deny this anymore, he said quietly. My voice shook. You didn't even know they existed. A flicker of pain crossed his face. I didn't, he admitted. That honesty hit harder than anything else. Because there was no arrogance in it. Only truth and regret. Luca tugged my sleeve again. Mom, he whispered, confused. Why is he sad? That question broke me. Because children don't understand wars. They don't understand fate. They only understand emotions they can feel. And right now, they could feel everything. Kyle's gaze dropped to Luca. Something shifted again in him. Softening, breaking. Slowly losing control. He said again. But this time it was directed at them. At his children. Nora tilted her head slightly. Are you our dad? She asked suddenly. The question like, my heart stopped. Kyle froze completely. Even the guards in the distance seemed to disappear into the background of that moment. For a long time he didn't answer. Then, yes, he said quietly. One word. Simple. Absolute real. I stepped forward instantly. No, I said sharply. You don't get to walk in after 5 years and claim them like that. His gaze snapped to me. And there it was again. That storm inside him. Controlled, barely contained. I'm not claiming them, he said. I'm acknowledging what already exists. My breath shook. I said. Kale stepped closer, now only a few steps away. I know enough, he replied. I know you left right after you disappeared. I know what that means. Heavy, unavoidable. Then softer. And I know I was wrong about you. That last sentence broke something in me. Because it wasn't defensive. It wasn't political. It wasn't authority. It was regret. Pure, unfiltered. Human. My voice cracked. I know, he said immediately. A pause. Then but it changes everything. Strepid den. This time. No one interrupted it. Not even the twins. Kale looked at them again. And this time, his expression wasn't confusion anymore. It was decision forming. Slow. Dangerous. Certain. I want to be in their lives, he said quietly. My body went rigid. No. The answer came instantly. He didn't react, not with anger, not with force, just calm persistence. I didn't ask for permission, he said. My chest tightened. And I didn't survive 5 years just to hand them over to you. I snapped. That finally made something flicker in his eyes. Pain, real pain. But still, he didn't back down. A long silence followed. Then Kale looked at the twins again. And when he spoke, his voice softened completely. Not alpha. Not ruler. Just him. I will not take them from you, he said. A pause. But I will not leave them either. My breath caught. Because that wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Or a warning. I couldn't tell which. Luca stepped slightly forward. Curious. Do you live here? He asked Kale. Kale slowly. Like he didn't want to scare him. I do, he said gently. Nora moved closer too. What do you do? She asked. A faint shadow of something like sadness crossed Kale's face. I protect people, he said. Luca tilted his head. Are you strong? A faint, almost bitter smile appeared on Kyle's lips. I am, he said. Luca considered this. Then nodded once. Okay, he said simply. And just like that. Something shifted, not forgiveness. Not acceptance. But connection. Small. Small, fragile. Real. I watched all of it happen like I was standing outside my own life. Because I had spent years preparing for anger. For rejection. For denial. Not this. Not him looking at them. Like they were pieces of him he had never known he was missing. Not them looking back without fear. Kyle finally stood. His eyes met mine again. And this time, there was no distance left between us. Only consequences. I will make this right, he said quietly. I let out a short, Broken Luffy, you can't undo 5 years. I know, he replied. Then. But I can live the next ones differently. Silence, the wind suddenly. Children again. Not war. Not legacy. Just Wika grabbed my hand. Nora leaned into me. And in that moment, I remembered something Kale had not yet learned. No matter what he claimed, they were still mine. Kale watched them for a long moment. Then looked at me. And for the first time since this began, his voice softened completely. I'm not your enemy anymore, Astra. A pause, then quieter. But I understand if I still am. I didn't answer because I didn't know. He stepped back slowly, not leaving. Not staying. Just choosing not to break the moment further. Before turning away, he spoke one last time. Rest, he said quietly, and then he left. But as I stood there holding my twins close, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning of everything, and Kale Draven wasn't walking away. He was coming back into my life. One step at a time, whether I was ready or not. This wasn't the end of our story. Not even close. Because love like ours didn't die. It broke. It twisted. It hid in silence and regret. But it never truly disappeared. That night, I lay between my children, listening to their soft breathing. For years, it had been just us, safe, quiet, whole in our own broken way. But now, everything had changed. Kale knew. The truth was out. And the life I built so carefully was no longer mine alone. Days would come where I would hate him again. For the past, for the pain, for everything he took from me without even knowing. And yet, there would also be days I would see him differently, in the way he looked at Luca, in the way he softened for Nora, in the way Reg lived in his silence. I didn't forgive him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I also couldn't deny the truth anymore. He wasn't just the man who broke me, he was the father of my children. And somehow, still the one my heart remembered. And Kyle Draven, the alpha who once rejected me, was now the man standing at the edge of my life, not forcing his way in, not walking away, but waiting. For me, for them. For a second chance neither of us knew how to take. Because some bonds don't break. They wait. The end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next audiobook. Tell me in the comments. Should she forgive him? And if you love werewolf romance with strong female leads, betrayal, and powerful comebacks, you're in the right place. More stories are coming.